listening to The Starting Zone, a podcast about World of Warcraft and the people who play it. And now, here are your hosts.
Well, hello and welcome to The Starting Zone, the podcast about World of Warcraft for people who play it. Today is February 21st, 2022, but you're hearing this on the 22nd. That's 22.22 Tuesday. It's February 22nd, 2022, patch 9.2 Tuesday. And my name is Spencer Downey. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to the podcast. I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, Jason Lucas. Jason, happy Tuesday.
9.2 on 2/22/22. Thank you, and same to you. And I just want to take a second here. We're recording this Monday night, right? So we're still in 9.1.5. Servers are still up. We haven't gone down for maintenance yet. But you know, this is our 9.2 launch episode, and we're going to talk everything we know about the upcoming patch. I just want to reflect for a moment on how weird it is that we're at the precipice here of the final major content update for Shadowlands, and how time is so distorted over these last couple years, because in a way it feels like this sort of is late and hasn't never arrived, and Shadowlands has been in a weird stasis. But then also you think back to, 2020, and it's like it felt like Shadowlands was never going to come out, and it got delayed, and all of that stuff. It's been a very strange time mentally. I mean, I saw a tweet a couple weeks ago last month that patch 8.3 came out 2 years ago today, and it was like, what? How did that happen? So that's kind of where I'm at. It's just like this patch feels like it's late, and also I can't believe that it's here already, because that's how my brain is experiencing time these days.
Yeah, I was going to say, it feels like we've been in Shadowlands for 4 years, is what it feels like to me. It's just been forever, and I think a lot of that just comes to the pacing / the content / how engaged we are in that content, right? I mean, both of us have admitted that this isn't our favorite storyline that we've seen them explore, and it's one of those cases where if you're not that super invested in things and they're not giving you very much, it can feel like it's fairly stagnant. So yeah, I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm excited for content to drop. I will add in, though, that yes, this is the last major patch that we're probably going to see in Shadowlands. But there is a 9.2.5 that was talked about. So that is most likely going to happen at some point in the next 8 months. So we'll see what happens with that.
It won't add any land mass or probably any 11 boss raid instances or anything. No. But yeah, there will be more changes and some quality of life features and upgrades. And of course, cross-faction instance grouping will come at that point. Maybe worth pointing out, since that was such a big news story a couple weeks ago, that is not in 9.2. Yes. You will not be able to do that starting tomorrow or this week or anytime really soon. But it's on the way, and we will get a .5 at some point in the 9.2 cycle, which will include that functionality. Yeah.
But I guess before we dive too much into WoW, let's do the ABK update, and then we can start diving into WoW.
It's somewhat brief. The NLRB hearing is underway. The National Labor Relations Board. So that's the only update I have right now at press time. You're not going to believe this, but the Game Workers Alliance, in conjunction with Communication Workers of America, released a statement that essentially accused Activision Blizzard of union busting activities and bad faith arguments regarding the complaints of the union and the reasoning behind why Raven QA wants to unionize. So that's not really a surprise. I mean, that's obviously the company's strategy in the face of this whole thing to begin with. So we'll keep an eye on it, hoping for good things for Raven QA, and hopefully that's maybe, the first domino in wider changes for the industry.
Yeah, hopefully. We'll have to wait and see what's going on with the hearing. All right. As far as World of Warcraft goes, this past week for me was, just prep. Like it's the clear out your bank stuff. It's the make sure that I have all the covenants that I want maxed out, renown-wise, maxed out. It's the make sure my conduits that I want upgraded are still all upgraded, even for other specs or whatever else is going on. Doing my Anima Conductor stuff. I actually maxed that out for Venthyr this past week, which was great. So that's all done. Everything's all reinforced. It was like just ticking all the boxes. I'm ultra tempted to craft legendaries. I really want to craft legendaries, and I just know.
Yeah. I think you gotta hold off on that one for a little bit.
I'm sitting on so much dust and whatnot to make them that I'm like, I can make like 5. I can make 5. Let's make 5 of them. It's fine. You're like, no, you gotta wait.
Yeah, I can just get more later. Like, maybe not.
Yeah, so I'm kind of in that situation where I'm excited to, I guess, start diving into things so I can start using up those resources I've been banking for a while, and get that going. I will say that I'm at the point now where when I log in on Tuesday, tomorrow evening, because just so everyone knows, maintenance is currently scheduled to go until 6 p.m. Eastern time, so that's 3 p.m. Pacific time. So you gotta wait. It's extended maintenance tomorrow. And that's if it actually finishes on time or it doesn't finish early. I mean, it's a possibility too. We've seen that before. But
it happens. Yeah. I mean, just prepare yourself for 6 p.m. Eastern. And then if it's earlier, it's a bonus. And if it's later, making live service games is hard.
Yes. But what it's meant was I want to log in. I want to see what my character's like with the newly found nerfs, because that's really all they really did to my class was make it worse. And decide what piece of gear I want to wear based off of that. Because I have this bank full of gear that I haven't fully gotten rid of yet. And I know that domination shards are being turned off. So unless you're going back and doing old raid content, there's no real reason to prioritize a domination socket piece over a non-domination socket piece. Especially if the secondary stats are better for you on the non-domination socket piece. So I'll be sort of juggling gear around tomorrow and taking off dom socket pieces to sort of figure out what's going to work best for me. And that'll be an interesting experience to go through, because it's that hard thing of like when you're first leveling up at the beginning of an expansion going, when do I take off this piece of very hard-earned piece of gear and replace it with something else after wearing it for so long? So yeah, it's going to be a weird time sort of swapping pieces around, but that's like first up on my agenda is make sure I at least get my gear sorted out again for what's happening post-patch, and then I guess after I start getting my second legendary, I'll have to sort out gear again, and obviously once I start getting tier pieces, I'll sort out gear again. But the initial one on Tuesday is just, what do I have lying in the bank that's better than what I'm wearing?
Yeah, and that's that's usually, like you kind of alluded to, sort of a new expansion thing. And I do feel like it's a bigger shift this time because dom sockets were so valuable in 9.1, and our priorities are about to shift radically. So it's almost like a mini expansion in that regard in terms of evaluating gear. I spent some time this week myself spending some Valor, just grabbing stuff that I had from end of dungeon or whatever that I was like, oh, this is interesting. It's statted pretty well, but it's not really usable in this patch. But at 246, it might be something that I would slap on, once domination sockets go away. So I have, I grabbed a couple things and upgraded those, and I have those options ready to go in case that's what I want to do. We did some raiding last week. We did the heroic skip, so we did Terra Gruin last 2, which was fine. Pretty clean and pretty quick. We did get one last bow out. We got our second heroic bow.
Congrats.
So just in time for it to not really matter, but it's still cool to have. And it went to the hunter of ours. It's like a world-class player, very consistent, very high damage, very good mechanically. Just one of the people I've been playing with in this guild for 10 years who's just been super reliable. So the fact that he finally pulled it was gratifying to me as the leader of the group. Like, this is, if I had Master Looter, this is where the first one would have gone to, right? Like, that's the way it was supposed to work. So that was cool. But then most of the raid week was actually doing achievements in Sanctum on normal mode. And I got to say, they were pretty fun. We got all of them done within that window, right? So we raid 2 hours Tuesday, 2 hours Wednesday. Carve out, I don't know, an hour or so of that for heroic skip. And we still finished in plenty of time Wednesday night with the normal mode achievements. That's a lot of bosses. So, we already had some of these achievements, right? Like there are a couple personal ones, or at least one, like Fate Scribe, for example. The achievement is just don't get hit with any of the hazards in the room. So a bunch of people already had that. Terra Grew, you have to go and click on buttons and Moriaz in the darkness, and people have been doing that, weekly, basically, with the 90% reduced AoE power. A couple other ones we didn't have to spend too much time on because, we had them, or it was something like that where it's like, listen, you need to, Fate Scribe, it's like, you need to do this. We're not going to stop and do it for you. Like,
right. Yeah.
We're not going to, I said, we'll do one mulligan and, we'll restart it one time. And if you don't get it, then yeah. One of the cooler ones was actually Soul Render Dormizane. What you have to do to activate the achievement is before the encounter starts, everybody has to target Garrosh and / taunt him. And then you get a permanent debuff that makes you move 20% slower.
Nice.
And the achievement is that nobody in the raid can get hit with the red stuff on the ground. So it was actually not that bad on normal mode because you have plenty of time. And, obviously there's ways to buff your group's movement speed, Windrush Totem and Stampeding Roar, stuff that, like Ghost Wolf, for example, and any shamans, they weren't affected. They could just move in Ghost Wolf at normal speed, plus displacements work. So there's a lot of ways to work around it, but it was a pretty interesting one. I actually had a lot of fun with it. The Sylvanas one was really funny because what you have to do for the Sylvanas achievement is in phase 2, there are 4 orbs on the bridges, and the orbs correspond with each of the covenants. You have to have players click on the orbs to collect them. And then when you get to phase 3, there's like a little inlay on each of the platforms pointing towards the center in that like quadrant that has the covenant sigil on it. The people that picked up the orbs in phase 2 have to stand on that sigil in the order in which the sigils appeared, and they channel a beam into the center of the room. And once all 4 of them channel in, then the achievement activates. And if you step on the plates like out of order, it breaks the channel and you have to start over. It was so weird because I've spent, I don't know, dozens of hours in that room on the bridges, and I never saw those orbs before.
Oh, really?
Like, I never saw them one time, and I'm like, wait, where are these things? Well, once you see them, you can't miss them. But like in the middle of doing the fight, and especially doing Prague and all that, which is when you spend most of the time, like I had no idea those things were there. So that was really like the only one we had to try to do more than once, which is weird to say. Like sometimes these achievement runs, it's just that, there's always 1 or 2 that are like, do we really have to do this? We have to do what? How does this work? Does everybody understand this? But it wasn't that bad in Sanctum, and the reward is one of those, armored hand mounts. I didn't have any of them because I didn't get a drop from Tormentors, and I didn't do the meta achievement that gives you one. So
yeah,
I was actually happy to have the mount because it's a unique model for me. I don't have it anywhere else in my collection. So yeah, that was cool. I was afraid we'd have to do some, achievements this week to catch up, or because we would run over time or whatever. And I really don't want to go to Sanctum of Domination this week. I just want to play the new content, such as it is, and it maybe, hit some dungeons because we didn't have a great week at dungeons. I don't think we even time. Well, I think we had a 20 that we didn't time. So this is going to be the week where we want to push up a bit higher because the keys are ostensibly going to decay like 4 or 5 ranks at next reset, right? So we want to be set up to be max reward or pretty close to max reward right from the jump as the season starts. So I think the main goal for my dungeon team this week is going to be seeing if we could get a 21 in time maybe, or at least complete one, and see what happens with the decay. Next, the week after this upcoming one is going to be a wild ride with Mythic Plus with 2 new dungeons in the pool and learning a new affix and everything. So I'm not expecting we're going to blaze through 15s as soon as the season opens, but because it's going to be a big learning curve. But we want to be set up so that we can at least fail our way into some max rewards potentially. So I think that's going to be the project looking ahead.
What's going to be interesting with that for me is I haven't run Tazovash since like the first 3 weeks Tazovash came out.
Yeah, I did it twice.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I have very little memory of the bosses, what the bosses do. like what we need, what the route would be, like all that's going to be a learning experience over again, which isn't a bad thing. It's something new, which is neat to learn. I enjoy learning that. It's just that's going to be an experience.
You're not going to stroll in there and just knock it over and go, hey, where's the loot? Like, no, it's gonna it's gonna be some blood, sweat, and tears for a couple of weeks. But that's always what I like about the system. I hope these dungeons. We'll talk about it more, I guess, when we get to the patch notes. But I hope those dungeons translate. I have some concerns.
Yeah. I'm with you though. This week I don't want to spend any time inside Sanctum. It's pretty much, and our team isn't either. Our team's taken the week off from raiding Sanctum and just focusing on the new content, running dungeons. I did a plus 20 last week. We actually did it right on Tuesday. We basically finished raid. We did a one night clear on Tuesday, and then someone's like, "Who wants to run a 20?" And I was like, "I'll run a 20." So I did a 20 plague fall. We timed that, which was great, even with some struggles. I was pretty surprised how easy it was to do, which was great.
Plague Fall's a good one. That's like most weeks it's pretty good. The timer's pretty forgiving, so that's
very forgiving.
That's a great choice for like a wind down after the last raid, right?
Yeah, we had an elemental shaman who on the first boss popped his cooldowns and didn't realize that taunt doesn't actually generate any threat. Taunt just makes the mob attack you for the period of time that the taunt debuff is on the mob. And so this shaman blew everything, smacked this boss as hard as they could before the tank actually had even attacked it, because the tank pulled with taunt, which meant that the shaman then had first threat. So the moment taunt dropped, the boss just turned and went smack. There goes the shaman.
Good thing he busted all those cooldowns.
I think they cast like 2 spells or 3 spells or something, and they were toast. And of course, I'm playing Boomkin and Venthyr Boomkin, so I'm ramping and just pounding into this boss thinking, we're fine. And the moment the shaman dies, I'm like, Shadow Meld, like just panic mode, like...
right, yeah, like what happened to the tank DC or something. Yeah, you don't know in the moment.
So
kids, wait for 5 Sunders.
Yeah, we still managed to kill that boss without a wipe on that, with a res and losing all their debuff, all their damage from all their cooldowns. It was a little tight. There was a little bit of kiting around while like knocking back and CCing blobs that are coming in right down to the wire kind of thing. But tyrannical week on that boss is a little rough. So yeah, it was cool. I enjoyed doing that 20. That was fun. All right. But as far as the rest of the week went, it was just prep, man. I feel like I'm more ready. Our team had sort of asked if there's any 5 healing fights, or if a healer can't make it, who is willing to swap over and go healing. It'd be nice to have somebody. And so I said, I used to heal full time. That's what I used to do. So I will once again be the swing healer for our team. I'll be doing Boomkin as my main spec, and then I'll be doing Resto for the fights that require it, or for the situations that require it. So I had to make sure all of my Resto stuff was in order, which I've been intentionally throughout all of this, just gathering as much gear as I possibly could. I basically achieved that point. I think there's one trinket I don't have or something out of the raid for Guardian Druid, is like the one piece of gear I didn't get out of the raid out of this tier. So I had just sort of hit that point where I was like, okay, I can pretty much do whatever we need me to do. But I realized that there was 2 conduits in Resto I just never bothered upgrading beyond 226. So I needed 2 on both of them. And so for like the last 2 weeks, I've just been going to Korthia every day and just going around to the different daily quests and be like, which one of you gives me research? Okay, that one quest gives me, I'll do that one quest. I'll do that one quest in Korthia, turn it in. I get like 800 research, and then I log out. And so like over several days, I could then buy 1 upgrade. And I got to the point where yesterday I had my last upgrade I bought to max out the last conduit I hadn't done for Resto. So it's all rolled off, which feels good to have that done. It was a Swift Mend one. So, it was Wild Growth one I hadn't done yet, where it was like slightly longer time before the healing drops off on Wild Growth. And I was like, all right, it's good, it's useful, that's a cool one. I'll just make sure that gets upgraded. So check that off.
Conduits are such a weird system, but at the end of the day, you want the biggest number you can have on them, I guess. Like, they don't really feel fulfilling in and of themselves, but do you really want low ones? Like, no, I want the good ones.
I don't want to get in trouble. I literally I'm on a team where I feel like I'm going to get in trouble, right? Someone's going to look at it and be like, how do you not have that conduit? It'll be like, I really have no excuse for not upgrading that conduit.
Well, especially if you're volunteering to like flex specs, especially so after so long of not doing that. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a little adjustment there.
So, anyways, it was that was something I was happy to have done. It was funny because I was doing that, and then as I was doing it, I was going, I can't remember if there's an all conduits to 52 thing or something like that. And it's like, I don't think there is. We know there's going to be some sort of conduit upgrade in 9.2. We know that there's a huge one that's gated behind a whole bunch of content, which we'll talk about. But it's still one of those, like, I don't really remember the best way to upgrade conduits outside of research stuff. So
yeah, the incremental ones we don't have. I haven't seen any.
There hasn't been any. Yeah, there's been nothing
answers about like incremental individual conduit upgrades. So.
Yeah, I do hear that there are still dropping from Mythic Plus and whatnot. So obviously that eye level will go up, which means that you can still get conduits, like an upgrade to your conduits from a Mythic Plus dungeon. So that might be what they're sort of anticipating, is people are going to upgrade those through raid boss drops and through Mythic Plus drops. But yeah, like you said, there's currently, from what we've seen from vendors, no, hey, buy this individual, this will upgrade your conduit to 268 or 267 or something upgrade thing that's out there. So we'll have to wait and sort of see what they put out for that. All right, with that, let's jump into what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, well, aside from the fact that 9.2 is launching this week, it is also the Battleground bonus event, which is very convenient because the sign of battle for honor gains and Battleground achievements are increased by 50%. And of course, there's a quest to win 4 random BGs, which grants you some marks of honor, anima, and conquest. And the reason why I say this is convenient is if you're someone who hasn't finished upgrading all of your gear yet that you want to upgrade with honor, here's your last chance to get a big old bonus to earning that honor, so you can dump it into those pieces of gear and upgrade them all the way. Like Jason said, this is the week where you want to be spending all of your valor. If you haven't spent your valor yet, same thing with your honor and your conquest, you want to be spending that up because it's just going to get converted to silver. So you want to get rid of it while you can still get more value out of it, and that'll be super helpful. So yeah, we're encouraging people to take advantage of that, and the Battleground bonus event's a great way to go, hey, you know what? I need 2 more ranks on this, set of shoulders or this trinket or whatever it is. Here's a great way to get a bunch of bonus honor right before it's going to go away.
Yeah, and you don't want that silver conversion. It's no good. Don't bother with that.
I mean, who wants silver?
Spend it on something. Yeah. Spend it on item upgrades, or go to one of the traders and get some, get some hides or something. Do something with it. Don't let it go to waste.
Exactly. And the hides are going to be worth more than the silver is. I'll tell you that much. Especially with the amount of people who are about to be crafting things. So definitely going to be worth more. All right, the weekly world boss is Valinor, the Light of the Eons. It's a big Colossus and Bastion. And of course, we have Morgeth, the Tormentor of the Damned, the big Mossworn and Desmataron. These guys each drop 500 anima apiece. So be sure you're knocking them out if you're trying to get on that anima farm. Man, oh man, I am glad that I've now have 20,000 anima saved up inside of my Venthyr bank of anima. Because I do feel like there's going to be some sort of anima spend thing. I know that anima is going to become easier to get because they're going to have more opportunities to gain anima from different sources. But I realized towards the end of the end of January that I was like, I should probably just start banking anima in case there's some sort of, hey, you want to buy this thing that is going to cost a bunch of anima that isn't just cosmetic. So I'm sort of hanging on to it just in case. We'll see what's going on. But this is a great way to just pick up some easy, fast anima by knocking these out. I'm out in these zones anyways because I have to go get all my invitations to bring everyone to my court, for my Ember Court for all the events. So I'm out here anyway, so I'm knocking these guys over regularly just to make sure I get that extra bonus anima. But what memories, Jason, if people are just coming back to the game or starting up a new character and they want to get some extra legendary memories, which ones does Valinor drop?
So Valinor has your Archbishop Benedictus for priests, your Final Verdict for paladins, and your Windspeaker's Lava Resurgence for shaman. So if you're missing those memories on your priest, your paladin, or your shaman, don't forget about Valinor this week. And just one. I kind of wanted to touch on one thing real quick. You made me think of this when you talk about banking up anima in advance of the new stuff. Like, obviously, new stuff will be here by the time most of you are hearing this, but as we've discussed a bunch and as we'll discuss throughout the evening, like, there's not an overwhelming amount of new stuff to go do this week. So if you're logged into the game and looking for stuff to do, banking up anima might not be a bad idea. There is some anima vendors and stuff that we'll probably discuss as we dissect the patch notes in the new zone. So depending on where you're at with a particular character or with your account, for better or for worse, anima is like the lifeblood currency of this expansion. So if you're not lousy with it, you might want to do some world bosses this week when you're actually logging into the game again.
Well, since anima is the reason why we won't have Ursoc again, I would say lifeblood is probably the correct use of that term.
Oh no!
I know. I'm so sad, man.
Bringing the whole room down now.
I was talking with my wife about Sylvanas and her character and what's happened and the soul split and the soul coming back and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what? She's the reason Ursoc died. Like I'm totally like when it comes down to it, like. Come on now, and not like died, oh no, he's going to go to the Night Fae and they're going to rebirth him into it. No, he's gone. They like sacrificed him entirely for his anima. Like, come on.
Yeah, it's all ruined. Yep.
So don't forget, when all you're thinking about the Sylvanas forgiveness, whatever is business that's going on, remember Ursoc, all right? That was Sylvanas. Let's just be clear.
I'm with you on that one.
All right. It's a fairly hefty charge against her there. But yeah, this week itself, 9.2, this is our neutral week where we're between seasons. It's the off season as the way that they like to frame it. And that means that this week we're going to have some quest stuff to explore. There'll be new rares to kill. But in general, there's not going to be a whole lot else outside of those new quests and rares and starting to work on some reputation with the new faction, the Enlightened. So if you're not doing any of those things, then you can do whatever else you want to do in the game. Like I talked about getting honor farm, or Jason talked about pushing keys up to a 20 to try and complete a 20 to have the best key carried over. There's people out there who are theory crafting or tinfoil hatting that you want to get a vault and then keep your vault and not open it so that you can actually save your vault until the first week of when vaults count, because as much as Blizzard says it's going to be an old reward, what if it's not an old reward? That's one of those like big curiosities. So a lot of people are tinfoil hatting, hanging on to your vault.
Oh no.
Yep.
I don't like that idea, because here's the thing with that.
Yep.
That stuff bugs and breaks all the time.
Yep.
And we know that and we've seen that, but they fix it. They typically fix it. So all you're doing is just setting yourself up for future disappointment, I feel like, if you're going that road. I mean, you do what you got to do.
You do, yeah.
But I feel like you're daring them to hurt you, and they're going to hurt you.
Yeah, that's exactly what you're setting yourself up for. Jason's absolutely correct. But there's the chance, and so everyone's like, why not take the chance? And that's the risky thing out there that people are doing. Anyway,
that's true. I mean, that's the other thing. Like, how much you really care about your very last vault of the season. Mm-hmm. Now, whatever you pull is not going to feel good this week. Even if it's something you wanted, you're going to be mad that you got it now.
Here's the other tinfoil hat thing circulating around those circles. You want to build up coins from your vault because you can buy the new currency with coins from your vault. So if you hang on to your coins from this season, if they don't phase them out in the next season, you can go to the new vendor to buy stuff with coins and buy the new currency.
That I could actually see, because we've gotten no communication about that coin rolling over. And maybe it does, and maybe it doesn't. But that to me is reasonable. They really try not to let stuff like that slip through, where it's like, oh, the correct thing to do is to have played the game in the past and have banked up all this currency so that now you can benefit from that. Like, they hate that design, and I think there's valid reasons not to design like that.
Yeah.
But by the same token, you have so many interlocking systems, currencies, and reward structures, especially in this expansion. Like, something's got to give somewhere. So that might be a possibility. If you don't like any of your choices, you might want to just opt for the coins and see if they stack up with ones you already have, or if there's going to be new stuff that you can use old coins for. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So that's another consideration. I'm just getting all this stuff out there of this is the neutral week, so while we're in the off season, you might as well, play around or keep these things in mind while you're playing the game. But yeah, outside of that, like, just think about, do you want some extra research to upgrade a conduit here or there? Is there anything you want to socket in, then you want to dump some currency into? There's a lot of little things to figure out. If you're still looking to farm up some more currency to craft a new legendary, because your gear might be switching around based on, what's going on with domination sockets. Maybe you've been wearing a ring this entire time as your legendary, and you're like, you know what? Now I can finally make this chest, shoulders, or helm where the actual big stats are, and I want this extra secondary stat, primary stat on the higher item level, putting it inside one of those slots. So keep that in mind as far as what you're doing. That's sort of the stuff that's on my mind gear-wise. Is right now my legendary's on belt. Belt's a pretty well-statted thing, but I also have the belt off Sylvanas, which is already a 259 piece of gear. So should I move the belt? And I craft the belt, off the belt onto shoulders or something. Or actually I have KT shoulders, so I'd probably move it to helm. So that way I actually have a really high statted helm, and I can actually put on my highest item level pieces of gear, which tends to be the better thing to do. So just little things like that to think about. And speaking of Torghast and earning, resources, it's the Chorus of Dead Souls event this week. Jason, you want to talk a little bit about the Chorus of Dead Souls event?
Yeah, so this is one of our monthly, what do you call them? Torghast holidays. I want to call it a holiday. It sounds like a weird thing to have in Torghast, but I just like the way that sounds. So Chorus of Dead Souls it's pretty cool. It's definitely different. It can definitely mix up your gameplay. The hook here is that your initial choice is going to offer you Howling Soul Core. What Howling Soul Core says is assume the form of a Dead Soul Chorus, replacing your abilities with Maw-based spells. While in this form, you have 50% increased damage and healing, as well as 20% increased movement speed. Friendly players may merge with your form to add to the chorus. So this is a cool option, especially if you're playing with somebody else. Torghast might be something you want to do this week if you are trying to get renown, if you need crafting mats, if you want to check out. Well, actually, I don't know for sure that the new Torghast modes are out this week. At press time, I'm not sure if we have the new layers in the boss rush mode, but they're coming. But if you're working on that stuff, I mean, I know a few people who have been pounding away at Torghast because they want to be set up with crafting mats. They want to round out renown for a covenant they're going to start maining, or they want to have the option to switch to the other covenant or whatever. So, people teaming up and duoing Torghast or whatever. Several people in my guild have been doing that for a while here. And if you have a friend or two along and everybody goes Howling Soul Core, it mixes it up a bit. I think a lot of people are doing like layer 9 and just kind of blasting through just to get to the end as quickly as possible. Well, if you're doing 50% increased damage and 20% increased movement speed, you're going to get to the end pretty fast. So, yeah, a little bit of cool variety this week for Torghast. We don't know what wings are available because it's Monday night, but I know Torghast isn't everybody's favorite mode, but if you're doing it because it's expedient, then a little bit of variety is a good thing.
Yeah. As far as Mythic Plus goes, we are not officially into Season 3 yet, which means we still have Tormented, the Season 2 affix going. We also have Fortified. This is your last Fortified week of the season, if you will, which means that people are able to do their Keystone Master still. If you're trying to earn that, you can still get your Fortified dungeons in. Then we have Sanguine, and then we have Necrotic. So that means non-boss enemies have more health and inflict more damage. When slain, non-boss enemies leave behind a lingering pool of Ichor that heals their allies and damages players. And all enemies melee attacks apply a stacking blight that inflicts damage over time and reduces healing received. So that means that, people are in general not wanting to let those stacks get too high, because then you are unhealable and you're taking a very high ticking dot. When you're killing mobs, you want to be moving them out of these pools that drop on the ground so they aren't healing up. And of course, because stuff has more health, if it's standing inside a Sanguine pool, it's going to heal even more because its baseline health is higher and it heals based off a percentage when it sits inside the pool, which means it's going to heal faster. So you gotta be a little bit more quick on that. Overall, this is just a really ugly trash week. Fortified Necrotic means that mobs are going to be alive longer, which means that you're going to have higher stacks of Necrotic. You're going to need more resets and knockbacks and slows and that kind of stuff to allow your tank to reset their stacks. If you're playing Kyrian, remember you can drink your potion. That'll get rid of your necrotic stacks. That's really good. So keep that in mind if you're a tank. But outside of that, it's just helping the tanks out with their necrotic and also helping the tanks out with knocking stuff out of Sanguine, interrupting mobs who are casting while standing in Sanguine. All very important. It's just ugly trash. This whole week's ugly. Bosses should just fall over, because outside of necrotic stacks from a boss, which does happen, so you don't want the bosses to be alive too long, but it's not a tyrannical week, which means they won't be. Outside of that, you're not really dealing with a ton of things unless you pull trash into a boss. Don't pull trash into a boss room and kill it and put Sanguine on the floor. Very bad news if the boss moves in Sanguine.
No, don't do that. Don't even think about that.
Don't do that. That's very bad. Outside of that, just ugly trash week.
Yeah, I think actually, I'm gonna say this is a great week for everybody except tanks that aren't prepared for it.
Yeah.
And once upon a time, I would have seen this combo and just openly wept. But they have nerfed Sanguine so much in terms of duration, right? The pool's only down for like 20 seconds. It used to be a full minute.
Yeah.
So that gives you a lot of options. These dungeons are really well designed to support counterplay with the affixes. I think, we could say a lot of things about Shadowlands, but I think as time goes on, the Mythic Plus synergy with the dungeon design is so strong in this expansion. Also, Necrotic is getting nerfed again. This nerf should be live at reset, where the duration is going down to 5 seconds.
Oh,
the duration used to be 12 seconds.
Yeah.
Necrotic is now a 5-second long debuff. So it gives you plenty of time to displace yourself, stun your targets, whatever. Just take a couple steps back and let it drop off. The great thing about this week is that DPS can just go nuts.
Yeah.
They don't have to worry about displacing themselves. There's no quaking, there's no explosive. They don't have to target switch to explosives. They don't have to get out of volcanics on the floor. They don't have to worry about bursting. They don't have to worry about raging. They don't have to worry about bolstering, any of that stuff. Just kill everything as fast as you can. Try to start with the thing that your tank can't move. Kill that thing first, and you're good to go. And a decently confident tank should be able to round everything up and just kind of backpedal it and make little rectangles, and everybody's having a good time. I think I'd probably say this every time that we have this combo, is that it's good because it puts all the pressure on the tank, essentially. And that frees everybody else's brain power up to just execute and just kill the trash and move through the dungeon and do the mechanics. And I'll take it. That's part of what you sign up for with being a tank anyway, right? You're leading the whole dance, and you're setting your team up to succeed. So this combo punishes tanks that are not experienced enough to handle it, or like don't have the ability to plan their route ahead well enough, where you could really get punished by something like Sanguine, or you end up in a position where you have nowhere to go. You boxed yourself in and you can't get your Necrotic down. But that stuff just comes with experience and with having, dealt with this combo many times. So I think it's great. And anytime you can just unleash your DPS on Fortified Trash, that's going to be a pretty good week, I think. So, I'm hoping that the keys agree with us, and that we don't get, 5 or 6 copies of Spires of Ascension or something. Give me a dungeon that we could get through. Let me get a 21 in the books this week. That would be awesome. I think we could do it this week if the keys cooperate.
Yeah, that Necrotic nerf is massive. It means that most tanks have the ability to deal with Necrotic, at least one reset, entirely on their own, where they just have a stun, and as you said, you can just move away, and that stun's going to last 1 or 2 seconds, plus the time it takes them to then move back to you since you've moved away a bit. Probably is going to hit your 5-second mark, and you can drop your stacks. The 12 seconds is where you really needed help from other people. So the
12 seconds was, I can't believe it was 12 seconds for so long. Like the way we have it now, it's just like, oh yeah. And I can't tell you, even at 12 seconds, like how many times I would get my stacks extended at the last 1 or 2 seconds, right? I think even nerfing down to 6 seconds felt heavy-handed, but I'm not going to complain because I don't like dealing with Necrotic. So yeah, keep it coming.
Yeah. Okay. We also have Cooking Impossible happening. The brawl for this week is Cooking Impossible, where Nomi's back and he wants you to hop into the kitchen in Valley of the Four Winds and cook up a new brawl. This brawl is one of the fun ones. This is sort of almost a PvE brawl. It's a PvE PvP brawl, where basically the PvE is going out and killing yaks and picking vegetables and running those goods back to your cooking pot so that you can actually cook up the meal first. And the PvP part is trying to stop people from dropping stuff off in their pot, which means you can actually have like an offensive and defensive squad like you do inside most battlegrounds, but the defensive squad's job isn't necessarily to kill the people before they arrive to the cauldron, because they're pretty much going to drop stuff off and then run away. It's just to slow them down while they're there. You just want to be as irritating as you can to the opposing team when they're trying to drop stuff off. You slow them, you stun them, you knock them back, you root them. Like you just want to, deter them while your team of expert gatherers are out there picking up stuff and dropping it off inside yours. Yeah, pretty cool. I like this brawl.
Yeah, great brawl. Just something totally off the wall, but super fun. This is one that, like, in prot spec, I do enjoy because it's really great to just stormbolt somebody on the other team when they think they're going to dump some vegetables into their cooking pot. Like, it's very satisfying in a way that, I kind of complain on the show from time to time that I can't really enjoy PvP in my spec of choice. The game's just not designed that way. So, I don't have a lot of opportunities to really enjoy it. I don't think Cooking Impossible is going to be on the schedule for me this week, but it is a really cool brawl. And if this kind of stuff if instanced PvP is part of your routine, like, I don't know what else you could ask for in your brawl. The games are pretty quick. It's really just wacky. It's a really fun change of pace.
Yeah, that definitely is. All right, Hatching of the Hippogriffs. We don't want this to get buried, the lead to get buried on this one. This is running on the 23rd of February. So that is this Wednesday, the day after patch stuff, or maybe the first day of, depending on how long maintenance goes that evening. You will be able to hop out to Feralas and visit during the Hatching of the Hippogriffs event. You can help incubate an egg and get yourself a Frey Feather hatchling, which is going to ride around your shoulder for 24 hours. And if you actually go out, once you've gotten your hatchling and defeat Lorthalium, you can actually make this thing last for 5 days. And who doesn't want to be rolling around Zereth Mortis with your Hippogriff hatchling on your shoulder, chilling with you? I think that sounds awesome. So don't miss out on this one-day only event. It's coming up, the micro holiday, on Wednesday.
Yeah, I love this one. I mean, I'm a Night Elf main for life, so I'm sort of duty bound to go out and do this every year and get my baby Hippogriff on my shoulder for a week. And this is cool timing with the patch. I mean, it doesn't take long to do this at all. Like, it takes longer to get to Feralas from wherever you're coming from than it does to do what you need to do to get your 5-day long hatchling. So if you have a chance, Wednesday while you're running around in the game, do this because it's awesome. And then you'll be logging time this week, doing outdoor stuff and whatever. You can hang out with your Hippogriff. If this came out last week, I wouldn't even see mine because I didn't really play that much, but I'll be in game a lot this week, so it's great timing for a micro holiday like this.
Yeah. Okay, let's start diving into the 9.2 stuff here. We actually have the official content update notes for Eternity's End, the 9.2 patch/content update. I love when they change the terminology from patch to content update. I always remember the fun stories around that we have.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny because, like, everybody calls it a patch, but it's not, it's not publicized as that anymore since BFA, but I mean, it's a patch. It's not even a game thing. It's a software thing. That's what it is. But it's a content update. They're updating the content in this patch.
Yeah. So when you log in, you'll get your quest to take you to Zereth Mortis. And upon arriving there, you got a whole bunch of quest chains you can do, a bunch of exploration you can do. There's 3 side quest lines that you can sort of hop into and dive into. There's 10 special encounters. There's a bunch of rares you can kill. There's a lot going on there. But you might be thinking, hey, you know what? I haven't really played the game this last patch. I've sort of been out of the loop for a bit. Well, you can actually earn gear just from killing those mobs, and it's going to be around 226 eye level. You can also purchase gear if you're someone who banked up a whole bunch of anima and you're like, I don't know what to do with this. You can purchase 226 gear for anima from Hadja, who's a vendor there. So there's lots of ways to sort of catch you up, get you rolling. It sounds like 226 is kind of where they want you to be close to getting into this area, since that's the gear they're giving you, is they want you to be somewhere around that item level for Zereth Mortis. So that'll give you kind of a guideline about what you're hopping into. But it's a large area. It's a large landmass with a bunch of different biomes. So there's lots to check out there. And we'll be spending the day, I'm sure, just riding around on our ground mounts, because you don't unlock flying until later in the quest chain, which we won't be able to do this first week. So just be ready for that. You're going to be back on your ground mounts again, riding around. It's going to feel a little weird, as it normally does in this final patch of an expansion. And you're going to be earning reputation. That reputation's for the new faction called the Enlightened. And you'll be getting this from the quest chains that you're completing, as well as from killing rares. Although, obviously, we had the whole conversation last week about reduced reputation from the rares, more reputation from the quests and from the daily quests / world quests that are there. So you won't need to do as many rare killings as you think you had to previously, which I think is great. And as much as the system isn't going to be fully unlocked and ready to go, the Cypher, the first ones, is going to be something you start working towards unlocking. And this is going to be a system that lets you upgrade armor pieces, not weapons, but armor pieces in item level. and armor pieces you receive from anywhere. You can receive a 226 piece in this zone and take it to the Cypher and upgrade it to 233, 239, 242, all the way up to 252 is what you can actually do, which I think is great. However, the stages of being able to upgrade that gear is something that's unlocked through upgrading the Cypher system, unlocking that Cypher system with Quest Chain, and sort of, seeing how that goes. The one thing they did change with the Cypher that I think was a great change was they made it so that the research time is now instant. It's a 1 second research time. So there's no longer a system where you're like, yep, I've spent my research in the Cypher, and now I have to wait 4 days for it to finish its research before I can spend the next chunk of stuff inside the Cypher. So at least that got changed out, because I think that's a much nicer, more free system. But outside of that, I think you're just going to be making friends with Poke, friendly little dude who's going to follow you around, and you're going to help him out on his adventures, and he'll help you out on your adventures, and get a bunch of upgrades for Poke, and it's going to be cool. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. There's going to be a lot going on.
Yeah, Zareth Mortis seems like a pretty cool zone. Obviously they've told us that they sold this patch to us initially with the story about like this being sort of the engine where the first ones like created the different afterlives of the Shadowlands and all that. That's fine. We kind of sort of figured that we'd end up in some kind of first one space at some point. So that's kind of what we're doing. You mentioned flying. I think one thing to point out is like we will be able to fly here, which rules, because it was the really weird thing with 9.1. It's like, hey, everywhere that you hang out, you can't actually fly in. That was just weird. But you'll be able to fly here, but not this week. But you can start working on it, because it's not tied specifically to questing, and it's not tied to rep. There are quests you have to complete, but also you can work on the exploration achievement. You can work on the other achievements you need to do, like you need to discover 5 hidden treasures, stuff like that. There are a couple quest lines that you have to complete in order to do it. You have to find some books and read those. And you have to find, 10 of the special encounters, and all of that stuff you can get working on, I assume, right away, so that you're ready to fly as soon as possible when the appropriate storyline chapter comes out. So that's cool. I think it's not a terrible way to do it. Like, I don't looking at these achievements, this doesn't seem like it's going to be anything that's really burdensome. These should be doable. This should be stuff that, they want you to go check out the new zone and go do stuff and find stuff. Let's
save the burdensome part until we see whether or not High Mountain is part of this biome. Because if you have to explore High Mountain, that's up there on the burdensome list, is getting the exploration of High Mountain.
Yeah. Hopefully the exploration thing won't be too bad. Or it'll be like that one little island off the coast of, what zone was that in BFA that nobody had? That was the last piece everybody always needed, because there was a little island off the coast of Drusvar or something that was like hidden.
I just remember in High Mountain trying to finish discovering High Mountain and keep continuously running into the Hunter Hall, which kept booting me out every time I try and get to the Discover area where the Hunter Hall was. That's what I remember very well.
Yeah. But yes, this is our hub. This is where we're going to hang out and live, right? This is where the raid zone's you're going to enter the raid zone from and everything like that. I do think it's cool that, there's going to be 226 gear tokens, like right off the bat, like that. I kind of wish they had publicized this a bit earlier.
Because of my banking up anima quest thing? Yeah.
Right. Like, it would have given people a chance to do that, or to maybe it's just to understand that, like, okay, I don't really need to worry. I have this alt that I want to play, or maybe I want to switch to in main, but like, I don't need to worry about gearing it up right now, because I can just go get 226s when the new stuff comes out easily, and then I'm ready to just play that, because what I want to play is that, not this. So, but that's really cool. Like, basically, if you need to get going, you can get going pretty quickly here. And from what we have been told and what we have experienced, there's no like questing prereqs to go out to Zareth Mortis. If you remember back in BFA, like there was some weirdness where you had to do certain parts of certain questing storylines in order to unlock like all of the other questing, which kind of made no sense. I mean, obviously WoW's a very cyclical game and people tend to pick it up and put it down. It's like, just let us get into the new thing that you're, publicizing and advertising. So I think they have done that here, which is really cool. And as far as the Cypher, the first ones, I wanted to just touch on that a bit because they put out kind of a meaty blog on that, just on that feature specifically, that I would encourage you to check out if maybe you're waiting for maintenance to come up or whatever. The Cypher is a thing. It was one of the key features of Zereth Mortis that they mentioned when they debuted it. We talked to Morgan Day a bit about it in November. And basically, this is a thing that you want to start interacting with as soon as you can because you want to earn these ciphers and you want to start doing your research.
And you find it, you figure it out after you get Poke, right? You get Poke that unlocks your cipher. You got that stuff.
I assume there's some kind of quest where it's like, hey, here's your Automa buddy, and here's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So the cool thing is, there's a lot of different bonuses and stuff you can get from it for the zone and for gear. One cool thing that they mentioned is you don't research like a gear upgrade thing. Your Cypher equipment level just scales up as you research other stuff. So it's just sort of this like background bonus that takes up as you're doing other stuff in the zone and unlocking other activities or stuff to do in the zone. So I think that's kind of a cool design. Just spending time researching a thing that just gives you like a flat item level upgrade is not that interesting. So having it be some cumulative thing about how much you've done with the system, this seems a bit better to me. One cool thing that they outlined, which like I really didn't see, I don't know why they didn't discuss this before, but and we'll see how ultimately useful this stuff is. But there's Cypher gear out in Zereth Mortis and that you obtain and you power up via the Cypher, the first ones, that has like unique powers on it that actually really some of them seem pretty powerful for gameplay in Zereth Mortis. I guess the problem is you're probably looking at these things capping out at item level 252. So the question is, are these bonuses worth the reduced item level? I think in large part they might be, especially as you get going, because...
Well, go ahead.
Good. I was going to say, essentially you can have 3 bonuses active at once, and they're in 3 different categories. There's a battle rhythms category, a Pokepoc harmony category, and a personal melody category. So battle rhythms kind of does what it sounds like it does, right? It has some kind of impact in combat. It makes you more powerful in some way, or makes your enemies less powerful, or something of that nature. The Pokepoc harmony things give you some kind of like, I want to say like economic benefit or something like that, right? They kind of streamline the econ curve in Zereth Mortis. You can either buff Pokepoc or you can use Pokepoc's abilities without having to pay energy, or you can locate additional hidden treasure chests within Zereth Mortis.
Which is going to be the popular one.
Yeah, that seems like a really important one as we get going here. That might tail off, but initially it sounds really good.
Yeah, the thing I want to hop in and mention about the upgrading item equipment level is I worry that this is a similar issue to reputation and a reputation grind, in the sense that by the time you have unlocked 252, have you completed enough other content that you're basically already 252? That is my concern whenever I see systems like this, is if this is a system designed to help you gear up, then it should unlock fast enough that it actually is helping you gear up. And it's not something where it's like, hey, I've hit Cypher equipment level 3, but I'm already wearing 246 eye level gear. I don't need to upgrade anything to 242. And by the time you hit 6, are you already wearing better than 252 gear inside most slots? Are you actually going to use this to upgrade item levels? And so I just want to be sure the pacing is right, because it's never right for reputations. By the time you can actually buy the like exalted piece of gear or revered piece of gear, you're probably already wearing something better in that slot, and that is disappointing. So they got to hit the timing on this right.
That's true, but I don't think that is the design intent of this particular gear, right? Because the question is it worth the item level trade off from maybe a chest piece that you got out of your vault or whatever for additional treasure chests? If you need to like farm Zereth Mortis treasure chests,
sure, yeah,
then you want to wear that piece while you're out in the zone, you know. And you know the personal melody category ones are stuff like increase your movement speed. That might be really good to have if you're just trying to do a quick loop. You don't. I mean,
flying,
yeah, it goes on a particular piece of like a gear slot per armor class. So you know you might want to just mix and match. You have a set of these bonuses that are going to just improve your daily loop and your daily efficiency in Zereth Mortis, but you're not going to take these into Mythic Plus 15 or Heroic Raid or something like that. This gear is just specifically it's being weighted towards these weird bonuses for out in the zone, and I think that's cool. I think they should have talked about that a bit more. And I mean, for me, I could see having like a daily loop set that I just rock for doing, you know, a half-hour loop in Zereth Mortis and get these cool bonuses, and then switch it out when I'm in an instance. Like that's kind of just never been the done thing. But they never. I don't know. I mean, we've seen gear like zone gear with some interesting properties, but never anything like what they're talking about here. You know, where like one of them is like I guess it's like. Well, the way they describe it is it allows you to recreate yourself upon death. I don't know if that's like a cheat death or if it's like a self-res, like an Ankh.
I'd say it's a self-res. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah. But either way, like that's a super powerful ability that'll save you time if you're maybe in over your head or you make some kind of silly mistake. You know, I mean, these are really cool powers for like zone-focused gear.
Yeah, the one thing I'd highlight about Recreative is it should work differently for each covenant. It should put you in a pod if you're Night Fae. If you're, you know, Venthyr, it should like be a bunch of red anima funneling into your body as you res back up. And of course, if you are part of oh man, I can't remember the name of the faction now. It's terrible. Covenant.
No.
Not Bastion, but
the Necrolords.
Necrolords. If you're part of the Necrolords, it should be.
Sorry, Necrolord.
I know. Jeez, it should be your limbs flying together and stitching themselves back together. 100%. You should literally be cool. A-bombed back together as you recreate yourself upon death.
Like when you jump on a dry bones in Super Mario Brothers 3.
Yes.
And then
a
couple seconds later, it all just I don't know if that's going to happen, but either way,
it won't. But that's what I want.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it's going to be more First Ones themed. The effect, the way the effect looks, but yeah. So you know, Cypher the First Ones is going to be a thing that over the next many weeks we'll be interacting with and picking different bonuses from, unlocking different perks and different activities to do in Zereth Mortis, and I mean, I guess my big hope for Zereth Mortis, and from a lot of the stuff that they've said about it recently, I'm optimistic. I want just a directed and reliable loop where I feel like I'm maxing out, you know. In 9.1, we didn't really have that. I spent a lot of time in Korthia, and I liked Korthia. I think it had some interesting design ideas. And I think some of the activities were like genuinely fun and interesting to do out there. The problem was I was spending so much time out there on my main character that I was just done with WoW for the day. By the time I finished everything I felt like I, you know, quote unquote, needed to do. The stuff that was on my personal checklist, by the time I got through that, I was done with that place, you know. And I played Korthia that way for, I don't know, a few months at least. I mean, I went pretty hard when it came to Korthia in terms of finishing research and finishing rep and all that stuff. Yeah. I would like it if Zereth Mortis was just more quest focused. Like, just point me in a direction. Let me get what I need to get. I mean, you could do that in Korthia, but it always felt like you were leaving so much on the table. And you were. Like, if all you did was a quest, that grind took forever, especially with the 9.1 math. They made it better in 9.15, but you know, I would like it if I could feel like I did what I wanted to do on my main character in, you know, a half-hour loop, and I knew I was going to destination X to perform objective Y and then going back home, you know. I think Korthia suffered from this. 8.3 definitely suffered from this. The sort of like all the downtime, all just the dead air while you're waiting for that event to fire, or you're waiting for that rare to respawn, like that is not fun gameplay to me. When I'm logged into the game and playing it, I want to be moving my character around, fighting and collecting things, and then turning them in for rewards. I don't want to be hovering in a spot, waiting for something to pop so I can cross a thing off my list, so I can feel like, okay, I'm, that gradual step closer to this larger goal that I have. So, what they're saying about how they want Zereth Mortis to feel and kind of some of the design philosophy behind it, it makes me optimistic that it's going to be better in that regard. But I don't know how it's ultimately going to shape up for my current playstyle and like what I want out of the game. But it would be great if I could just take the warrior out, zip around there in half an hour or something and go, okay, that's what I needed to do. And then maybe feel energized to grab another character and do it again. It would be something that hasn't happened in a while. So that's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, the point I wanted to highlight there was the 30 minutes thing you're talking about. Based off of all the PTR testing and whatnot's out there, it sounds like the regular daily loop is going to be about 30 to 40 minutes for most people, which means that, if you're looking for what that will look and feel like, I think that'll be a nice change from what we were coming off of with trying to, like, basically you couldn't ride around without being like, I have to stop for that mushroom, I have to stop for that chest, right. I have to stop for that, like, constantly. There'll be a little bit of that with rare spawns and that sort of thing, but it won't be nearly as bad as what we previously experienced. And I would say trying to do the loop initially inside Korthia was close to an hour, depending on what you were trying to do, simply because you get sidetracked easily. Often. Like yep. I would say it was an hour and a half for me regularly, because I'd be like, all right, I'm doing the quest loop, and then while I'm doing the quest loop, it was like I also have to grab these. It was like 9 treasures, killed 15 rares, do this event when it pops with a teleporter, do like all that kind of stuff. Really felt like it was a huge time investment. And an hour and a half was like a generous, hey, I got lucky with, I'm not going to kill all the rares, I got lucky with some of my route kind of thing.
Right. So then if you tack the rift onto that, plus you're not flying, and sometimes like an event fires all the way across the zone, and you drop what you're doing, and maybe you don't get there in time. There were a lot of cool design ideas in Korthia, and there was a lot of stuff I legitimately liked about it. But I want to see some lessons learned.
Yeah. Well, the other thing that we have popping up in the zone, which actually you're not going to be able to really play with too much until we hit Chapter 3 of the campaign, is the protoform synthesis. I don't know why that word was hard to say, probably just because it's late night for me at the moment. But it's basically a forge where you're able to craft mounts and pets. That's what this thing is going to be used for. So you're going to be out there using this forge with materials and stuff you gather around the zone. Collect them schematics for these different, pets and mounts, and you're able to craft them all together and make your own pets and mounts for the zone. I like this kind of stuff because this sounds to me, from what I understand of it, is while you're just out doing your daily loop, you're going to be gathering stuff towards making these mounts and pets, which means you can not only choose, depending on which schematic you target, for like going out and saying, hey, I want to get these schematics to make these mounts. You can then like just passively make them over time, which means that while you're out doing your loop, you're actually gaining something else that you can contribute towards, which is what everyone wants. No one wants to do a quest just to do a quest. They want to do a quest to get the reward for the quest and somehow passively benefit something else. It's why callings and emissary quests came into the game. Hey, you know what's great about going out and doing those 3 or 4 dailies? You also get this other bonus for doing 3 or 4 dailies. Well, this is a similar thing. What's great about going out and doing your loop? You also get these other materials you use towards crafting this mount or pet that you want to make. So great little system that they're incorporating in there, and just falls right into the same kind of, this is the place where they build everything and create everything, so here's you building and creating your own stuff here in a forge, which makes sense.
Yeah, the cool thing too is it seems like, at least from the description, again, it's not out yet and I haven't played PTR, but it seems like it's pretty deterministic in terms of what you make. You're deciding what to make, right? Like there are items that you need in order to, unlock and create certain types of mounts and pets. But you do have some degree of control over that because you're deciding what you're doing with it. And they've baked a lot of different stuff in here. There's an achievement for making, 50 synthesized pets and mounts. Like, there's a lot of variety here. It's it should add a lot of longevity to Zereth Mortis, especially if the pieces that you need are abundant. If you're coming across they mentioned basically you need a schematic, you need a lattice for everything that you make, and then you need a rare item for a mount or a glimmer item for a battle pet, and then you need Genesis motes, which is like the currency, I guess, to make it work. So if you're able to grab this stuff on a consistent basis and feel like you can spend these items and make stuff you want, I think that's really cool. This reminds me a bit of Mechagon in BFA. There was a little bit of that kind of stuff in Mechagon. It was nowhere near the scale of this in terms of the sheer amount of stuff you could make. But also, Mechagon had some recipes that were extremely hard to come by. They were very low drop chance, and you had to catch Mechagon on the particular correct day in order to have a prayer of the thing dropping. I would like to see them not repeat that kind of a thing. I did the Mechagon meta achievement, like the zone achievement, when it was current, and it was a cool reward, and I was glad to have it. And most of the stuff I really like doing, but the 2 or 3 really RNG dependent parts of that meta I did not enjoy. So I'm hoping that you can make a cool selection of mounts and pets without having to log on that particular day when that event happens, and then you catch it, and then you luck out on the 1% drop chance schematic or whatever. I don't think that really serves these types of systems. But this is another one that they talked about, but they didn't really publicize too much. But then they put out a pretty cool blog about it. There's some screenshots of the UI and stuff. So I'm not the biggest mount or pet collector in the world, but I also like to have stuff to do. So if this feels good to engage with, then I could definitely see chasing some of these achievements for having a bunch of this stuff synthesized. So I think it's a cool way to go versus a Paragon bag that has one mount in it maybe, and if you get enough Paragon bags and you get that mount, or if you get Exalted Rep with this faction, then you've earned the right to pay them 30,000 gold for this particular mount or something like that. And I don't think that stuff is bad to have necessarily. I'm fine with that stuff being in the game, but having alternatives for people who just want to work on collections, that's really cool too. So I hope this is fun. It seems like a cool hook, so I'm looking forward to checking it out and seeing what I think about it. But it seems like a cool option for people who are really into collecting.
I like that it's not gold locked. I think that's something big there to highlight. Is it doesn't sound like, at least, there's going to be you have to buy 6 of these 15,000 gold items in order to do a craft. I think it's important to incorporate non-gold sync stuff like this into the game. It's really frustrating. Like I don't own all the toads from BFA. They're very cool mounts, but they're 333,000 gold a piece. And I don't really feel like spending more than 1 million gold on a bunch of mounts. That's just not my thing. I mean, I know a lot of people out there do.
Right.
I obviously bought the Brutosaur, which was 5 million gold, to have an auction house that I could use at will, which I thought was very useful. I haven't bought the Spider from Dalaran. That's 1 million gold. That just isn't something that super interested me at the time. I may eventually somewhere down the line do that as a collector, but I think it's much nicer if they incorporate systems like this that aren't gold sinks, that produce cool mounts and have this level of choice, because it's just nice to not have that as a barrier, right? Especially with changes coming in recently to cross, factions or cross realm stuff, and not being able to do boosting sales as much. It's a little trickier when you're doing on server only. That's screwed with a lot of the pricing and gold making. So I feel like that is also going to screw with a lot of the gold and how people get gold in the game. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that crafting system plays out.
Yeah, it seems like it's totally self-contained as Zereth Mortis from what they're telling us. So, you should be able to just play around in the zone and get stuff, and then get mounts and pets for your trouble. And
yeah,
I think the game needs a little bit of both. You can have the gold sync mounts over here, but also have something a bit like deeper gameplay wise for people to engage with and still kind of scratch that collecting itch.
Yeah. Okay, so in case you missed it, Sofo, the new raid that's coming out, it's not coming out this week. It's coming out on the 1st of March, and then we have to wait another week for the Mythic version to come out. So we'll have Normal and Heroic on the 1st, and then Mythic and Raid Finder Wing 1 on the 8th. So if you're somebody who's looking for the new raid, you still have another week before that kicks off. So nothing new coming with that. We have the new Brawl, the Solo Shuffle, which we talked about recently. If that's something you're wanting to dive into and try, that Brawl will be available, and you'll be able to dive into that and have fun with that. I don't know if that's a tomorrow thing either, sort of like Torghast, or whether that's going to be a new season start thing. I'm hoping it's tomorrow. Like, I'd like to see that happen tomorrow. I'd like to see the Torghast stuff happen tomorrow to give some people something to do and check out this week. I think it's really important outside of just, hey, here's the zone with a quest chain and 30 minutes of dailies you can do every day. That's less exciting than being like, hey, we also have the Torghast thing out. We also have the Maldraxxus Arena would be a cool thing to incorporate in that I don't think really is affected by season. Having Solo Shuffle drop in would be really cool. Those are all things that I think would be great to see. So hopefully that happens. Solo Shuffle, just to remind everyone, is that 6 players queue into everyone it's 2 healers and 4 damage dealers, and everyone gets to play with everyone in a 3v3 arena match until you sort of see which team came out on top, or which individual came out on top, and you each get rewards based off your own performance. And I think that's pretty crazy and cool. So definitely check out Solo Shuffle when you can. Season 3 officially kicks off on the 1st as well.
One thing I wanted to chime in on about Solo Shuffle, I don't know why they broke this up like this in the patch notes, but there's a note further down about chat commands for setting up war games for Solo Shuffle and for spectating Solo Shuffle war games. Right. So if you're interested in doing stuff like that, they included detailed patch notes about the way to use the chat commands to invite your battle tag friend and set your map as an option and set up a Solo Shuffle. So that seems like it would be really fun if you had, 5 friends on and you want to just hop into a war game Solo Shuffle and just see what happens. That actually a really cool option.
Well, it also incorporates esports right off the bat for people who want to set this up and actually do like a tournament. You can actually do that right off the bat. Yeah, you can have the spectate option. You can have particular individuals queuing up together. It's already being built that way from the beginning, which I think is huge. So yeah, it's definitely nice to see.
Yeah, super cool feature. So yeah, check that out. Check out the detailed patch notes if you want the commands for that. I'm not going to read them out here because that's not good radio.
Yeah,
but they are in the patch notes document.
Yeah, and then we have, obviously, like I said, season 3 kicking off on March 1st, and so that's going to add the new PvP season and the new Mythic Plus season with the new Mythic Plus Affix Encrypted, which we'll remind you all about next week on that episode. There's no real point in diving too deep into it this week since we're not getting it this week, so we'll focus on that one later.
I have no first-hand experience with it either, so we'll check it out. We'll see what they say about it in advance of the season coming out, and then we'll play around with it the week of the 1st, and then we'll let you know what we think and what happened with our experience with it. So, yeah, definitely. This is a big season for Mythic Plus because we got 2 new dungeons coming in, and we got a new. You always have a new seasonal affix, right? Since the beginning of BFA, so there's always a wrinkle, and then you add 2 new dungeons in the pool, and it's gonna be a learning curve for sure. So yeah, not this week though. We got one more week before that all kicks off. So that also they do that kind of weird slow ramp up where week 1 of Mythic Plus means you're not going to be able to get max reward end of dungeon. Keep that in mind. You'll probably want to do like, if you're just going for gear, you probably want to just run 7s or something, the week of the 1st, and then, get a 15 in for max reward for the first vault, and then you can just slam 7s for gear. And then, I know why they do it, but it always feels so weird. It's just like, we got to get the first 2 weeks of the patch out of the way so we can really start playing it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. The other thing to highlight is Darkmoon Fair. We actually are going to have Darkmoon Fair on the 6th of March. So obviously not this coming weekend and not next weekend, but the 6th of March. So you're going to see that pop up. And we have Darkmoon Dance Competition being a new feature that's being added, where you're able to go head to head and compete against a rival dancer and perform with stylish moves. This sounds like something that's very like based off of the transmog competitions that they do. It sounds like a similar kind of attraction that people can participate in. I don't know necessarily what the rewards will be, or if there's achievements for it, or what they're doing. I'm sure there's going to be achievements for it, but it's neat to see something new being added to Darkmoon Faire. And it's a good reminder that, hey, as much as we're going to be pumping out reputation that next week, and it's going to be that extra reputation bonus from Darkmoon Faire that's going to be really juicy during that first week of season 3 when that's all kicking off. So that's going to be really nice. Hopefully that all applies. Hats. Yeah, get your top hats all sorted out, and hopefully it works with that reputation. It should. So that'll be exciting.
It should, yeah. It's not Archivist Codex, so it should work with the zone rep, I would think.
Yeah.
I haven't seen or played the Darkmoon Dance competition, so I'm not exactly sure what to expect, but it seems like it might be cool. I do like rhythm games, so if it has any of that, then that could be really fun.
It could be really fun.
Yeah. If it's like the dance boss from Castle Nathria, then that's not really what I think of as a rhythm game. So hopefully it seems like it's a bit faster paced than that. So that could be really cool, and it's always interesting when they add stuff onto Darkmoon Faire, even if it's not stuff that I'm going to check out on a monthly basis.
I'll also highlight another change coming in. If you're a male Night Elf character, they're adding 3 new Night Elf male face options over top of the 3 scowling face options. So now you have more natural, less aggressive mouths. So if you're someone who wants to mess around with your Night Elf male face options, you can do that after patch launches, because you'll have different ones to play around with, which is kind of neat. So keep that in mind. And then if you're playing a Valpyra, you might notice that your Bag of Tricks is healing less than it used to. And that's because it's now capped at 3 targets, whereas it was uncapped before. So just keep that in mind as well if you're a Valpyra. And then
I feel like this is anti-alliance bias, even.
The anti-alliance bias.
Because they're nerfing this because of the impending cross-faction instances.
Oh.
So this is inverted anti-alliance bias.
Oh my God.
Even though it's a horde nerf. See how that works? It's sinister.
I hadn't even, that was 2 5-head for me. You were way above that.
Yep.
All right. As far as the actual classes themselves go, there is a ton of stuff that's changed, and obviously this lists everything. There's only a couple things that we want to mention throughout the classes on the show. The rest of it, just go and check the notes out for your class. There's a whole lot of different abilities changing as far as the amount of damage they do, what the conduits do for their damages, like a lot of percentages change. But things to highlight for Druids: your Cheetah travel form has now been updated to a new and higher resolution model. So you're going to have a better looking Cheetah travel form if that's one of the ones you're using. I'm using one of the new Shadowland Stag models at the moment because I really like them. But yes, if you're a fan of the Cheetah, maybe not for long.
You'll see the new Cheetah and go, yeah, that's a pretty high res Cheetah. I got to go with that one.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And then as far as Shamans go, you can now discover 2 new glyphs that change the appearance of Ghost Wolf. And they have the Spectral Lupine and the Spectral Vulpine as far as these 2 new forms that you can look. Obviously, one's very Alliance, one's very Horde. But keep in mind that those glyphs are in the game. Glyphs are a thing everyone forgets about until you type glyph into the auction house, and there's this ginormous page of them, and you're like, holy, there's like things here I never knew existed.
There's just scribes just crying their eyes out.
Exactly.
Remembering the good old days, and now people forget that glyphs even exist.
Exactly. So there's new ones being added. Be sure that you are, as a scribe, doing the discover to discover the new glyphs that exist. If that's still a thing. Otherwise, you have to buy them from a vendor. I haven't even looked that up yet. But otherwise, be sure you're getting the new glyphs so that people can pick up their Vulpine and Lupine forms for the Ghost Wolf. Yeah. And then for Warlocks, of course, this very important incubus is being added, so you can now summon a succubus or an incubus. You can go to the warlock trainers in Stormwind and Orgrimmar and enact a pact with their incubus or succubus, ensuring they are the only one who's summoned. So if you're someone who wants to have the incubus, you can go and do that. That's a thing. Just go to Stormwind and Orgrimmar, and that'll be the one that you learn.
So I believe that this defaults to random as of patch. So, because the spell is being changed to summon Sayad, which is either an incubus or a succubus. So it's just a coin flip by default. And if you want to have one or the other all the time, then you can go to the trainer and do that. So keep that in mind. More customization options for druids, shamans, and warlocks with this patch.
Yeah. All right. Cosmic Flux. This is the new currency that's going to be used to upgrade legendaries or crafting legendaries, as well as buying items off the Enlightened Broker and the new Creation Catalyst. This is also the resource that you can buy with coins from your Great Vault. This is one of the reasons why I'm saying, hey, hang on to your coins. There is a Cosmic Flux Bag that you can buy with those coins. And unless they make these coins season specific, you can just go out and buy Cosmic Flux on day 1 of this patch using those coins, which is pretty cool to just get a bunch of it right away as currency that you don't have to spend time farming. You can get Cosmic Flux from Season 3 activities, meaning defeating raid bosses, PvP, Mythic Plus, Torghast, or just Zerath Mortis activities. So you get it from a lot of places. But if you're someone who's like, hey, you know what, there's nothing really upgradable out of my vault this week, take the coins, hang on to them because there's a chance. You can save yourself a little bit of farming by just buying up a bunch of Cosmic Flux from using those coins up, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, this is definitely the currency you want to pay attention to in this patch. So grab it wherever you can get it from. Try to max it out wherever you can, and spend it. You know, what I don't want to see people doing is going, oh, well, I use this for the Creation Catalyst, so I'm going to bank as much of it as I possibly can until I can use the Creation Catalyst so that I can make a set piece item out of this other thing. And like, you're not going to be able to use the Creation Catalyst for 8 weeks. You're leaving a lot of power on the table if you're grabbing up your Cosmic Flux, but sitting on it until that happens. Don't do that. Use it to power up. Take the power that's on the table while you can and use that, to springboard forward. And eventually, you'll have a Creation Catalyst charge unlocked and you can upgrade a set piece of your choice. But if you spent the first 2 months of the patch not as powerful as you could be so that you could have like one cool, powerful item 2 months later, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I feel like the way the game is designed typically discourages that kind of like hoarding and sort of rejection of short-term power gains in favor of long-term power gains. They don't want you to do that. The game is sort of actively discouraging you from doing that, but there is like a certain mentality where you have a limited resource like a currency like Cosmic Flux, and the only thing it seems quote unquote like worth spending it on is like the most powerful thing you can do with it or whatever. Don't do that. You want to get your legendary situated and all that stuff, and you'll have plenty of time to get your stuff powered up via the catalyst. It's going to be a bit of a slow burn as we kind of roll this patch out and everybody gets involved with it, and then later on it'll be a more regular and available resource. But for right now, grab that Flux and get some rank 7s.
Yeah. And as you said, the Creation Catalyst being able to actually craft, like being fully unlocked and able to craft set pieces isn't going to happen for like 7 or 8 weeks. I think it's officially 8 now. I think we've confirmed that, but we'll find out if they screw around with that timing at all as far as how the quests are handed out. It's just that's when the chapter of the quest you have to complete is currently scheduled to come out, is 8 weeks in. It's not something that you should be holding off and saving up for in a lot of situations. Getting character power early can really help your team get, either get those PvP rankings that you want, or clear out that Mythic Plus at that higher keystone, or, kill some extra raid bosses and actually get more tier gear that way. So necessarily hanging on to it isn't great. As I mentioned top of the show, all conduits are now spread out across all Shadowlands dungeons. So if you're somebody who's looking to actually get conduit upgrades, you just get them from Shadowlands dungeons. On higher keystones, you get access to higher versions of those conduits. They do have 3 items that have been added that raise the item level of all of your conduits. There's one that's at friendly with the Enlightened, the new reputation, that brings them all up to 226. So this is that, hey, we're encouraging everyone to, get 226 item level before they start really participating in the raid and those sorts of events. Here's an easy way to do it. The moment you hit friendly, which you can do like first week in there, you can actually get 226 in all of your conduits. Then at Revered, you can get 239 for all of your conduits. And then once you've completed basically the Zereth Mortis campaign, which takes a while to complete, you can get yourself 278 in all of your conduits. You can raise them all up to 278 eye level, which is sort of the max. But you have to have also done either clearing Mythic Raid, completing all 20s in time, or having basically Gladiator. It's Elite, not Gladiator. It's Elite in PvP, as far as ranked PvP goes. So that's the current limit on that. That is the bar that they're setting for if you want to max out all of your conduits, which, mind you, like the difference between the step down from 278 and 278 is a very minor power increase. If you want that power increase across all of your conduit slots, you have to have completed these basically the most challenging activities in the game, as far as clearing Mythic Raid, or completing all 20s in time, or doing Elite in PvP. That's getting 2400. So it's one of those cases where I think there'll be a lot of people who hit 2400 in PvP first week, just like there was in previous patches. That was like the first thing. The first week, people were getting max reward from their vaults for PvP rewards because they just got 2400 in the first week. I think that's probably the one that a ton of people will dive on early. Getting all 20s in time won't be insanely extreme. It's going to be something people have to work towards. If you're someone who can already do 20s in time right now or 21s in time right now, it's very doable for you to get up to that point where you're able to do this, especially once we're talking 2 weeks in. When you get your second legendary, you'll see a huge power spike. These will become a little bit more in reach. So that's probably the second easiest one. And obviously the hardest of these to complete is clearing the Mythic Raid, which is something that the majority of teams who actually do end up clearing Mythic Raid don't do until you're already 9, 10 plus weeks into the expansion, which I think by that point, you most likely, if you're someone who's clearing Mythic Raid, will have already gotten either 2400 or clearing all 20s in time to be able to get this upgrade. So it is a barrier. It's a prestige is what this really is. It's a character power prestige for people to be able to get those 278s and walk around with them and show them off if they want to. So that's the last part of the conduit stuff.
Yeah, I don't really understand what the Vessel of Profound Possibilities is for, to be honest. It just seems like such a high bar to reach. I'm hoping that there are incremental upgrade items, or that you could just get like 278s to drop from end of Mythic Plus runs or something if you're up high enough. I would like to upgrade my conduits. I don't think the conduit system really worked out that great, but I still want to power them up. But yeah, the bar here is so high that you've essentially like completed the game.
Yeah.
In your end game content method of choice, you've completed the game, and then they go, here's an item that gives you 278 conduits. It's very strange. And I'm not really sure. I'm not sure how this is even useful. I guess if there's no other way to get them, then yeah, maybe it's like the cosmetic rank of the essences in BFA or something, essentially, where it's like, oh, I just have these because it's cool and it was really hard to get, and so I have it, even though I didn't need the stat increase to do the thing that required me to unlock it. Like it's strange, and I hope this isn't the only way to get conduits to 278. I mean, it could be cool if, like, I don't know, a mythic team has somebody switching tunes or something, and they can bring them to like a mythic jailer carry, and then their conduits are done in one shot. Like, okay, that's awesome. Outside of that use case, I'm not really sure what this is for. And if there's no other way to power up your conduits above 252 that's like within reason, then just nobody's going to do that. So I don't know. I'm having trouble seeing the big picture here, but I think the other two items are really cool, actually.
Yeah.
Getting a full slate of 239s at Revered, that's awesome for a lot of people. As I mentioned about the Korthia grind that I was doing, I got all 252s, so it doesn't do anything for my main, but that's I feel like Revered is a low enough bar where it's like it's going to take some time, obviously, right? You can't do that in like a weekend. The rep is going to be parceled out, but that's just a huge a convenience in terms of like seeking out individual conduits and upgrading them rank by rank up to 239. Like the system is so messy because it's sort of like this combination of items and itemization with like a gradual power increase system that like starting from scratch over and over again is just, it's daunting to say the least. If I could be diplomatic, I would call it daunting.
Yeah,
it's just it's a lot. So I think getting a full slate of 226s just for friendly, that's really all most players are legitimately going to need. You get enough of a bonus from your conduits, you can get friendly, pretty much right away. That's an awesome option, and the problem is that the system is just so unwieldy.
Yeah, I will emphasize again that the 13 item level jump between conduits tends to be a very, very minor power increase. So it's one of those factors where being able to get 226 at friendly, that's the big gimme from Blizz. Because if you already have a max renown character, you can go to the Flight Master inside of Ouroboros. There's a dude standing next to him, and for 500 gold, you can buy a book that upgrades all your conduits to 200 eye level. You can do that. That's bind on account. You can mail it out to all your alts so they can have 200 eye level. If you're someone who's just coming back to the game and you haven't really been working on your conduits at all, or you want to change specs or whatever it is, you just have to get to friendly. You don't even have to have like renown X or Y or anything like that. You just have to get to friendly, and then you can buy this item and just set all of them to 226. And that's hey, this is your main character who doesn't have to have these other requirements met to be able to buy it. You can go in and get that. That's great to me. I think that's a really, really powerful upgrade. And the 239 is a nice, hey, congrats, you earned Revered. Here's another item you can buy that upgrades everything to 239, and you will notice like a very minor power jump. But for the completionists out there, it's neat to have them all at 239. So I think that's great. I'm with you with the 278s. I still feel like this should be all 15s in time, 2100 PvP rating, and clear heroic get ahead of the curve. Like that should be what we see for this requirement, because then people will actually get it, earn it, and enjoy it while they actually get the power bump from it.
Like, here's a benefit. Now go take the next step. Go push that next goal. Like, that would be perfect.
I don't understand that the requirement being complete everything you want to do on your character, basically, and then you get a power spike to make it a little bit easier. I think it's nice to make things easier. This just feels like a very gated way to make things. You're making things easier on the elite top 0.2% of players on the in the game. It seems very odd.
Like, the requirement is beat the game, and then you can have this power upgrade. Okay, cool.
All right. Outside of that, I've already mentioned that Shards of Domination are disabled in Zereth Mortis, Sopho, and all PvP and dungeon content. So you don't need to worry about Shards of Domination, which means if you have higher item level gear that you can put on in your Shards of Domination spots, put them on, because the Shards of Domination aren't doing you any benefit in the new zones that you're going to be participating in, the new content you're going to be participating in. Keep that in mind. And then, Jason, some of our favorite mounts actually got flying updates. We got to see the Mechagon Peacekeeper, the Rusty Mechanocrawler, and the Scratforge Mecha Spider be able to soar in the skies with a unique flying animation. They just threw that in there as a, hey, you know what? One of our animators decided to make this happen for us, so now these are flying mounts.
Yeah, well, these things are all sort of in line with the sort of robot vibe on Zereth Mortis, right? So maybe there was something in the way they were rigged that they, it just made sense to update them. So I don't know if I really want to see a Scrapforged Mecha Spider soaring into the sky, but you'll be able to tomorrow at some point.
Yeah. As far as your sort of toys and illusions on your weapon, anything that changes the appearance of your weapon will now correctly show your original enchant or illusion on the new weapon. There was a lot of weird stuff where you were putting on an appearance or a toy, and then you lose the enchant that was pictured on it. And if you're picking up something from a foam sword rack or whatever, you want to have that Crusader showing through on that weapon to make it look like a lightsaber. Like, come on now. That's cool. I think that it's nice when they make these sort of tweaks that are cosmetically that are fun to check out and play with. And then, Jason, there's a trinket change here that interests tanks on a certain level here.
Sort of, yeah. So the Weave of Warped Fates trinket is changing in this patch. This is the one that drops from Fate Scribe in Sanctum. It now prevents the player from death. And what it did in 9.1.5 was it resurrected the player on use. My assumption is that they're making this change because there is some mechanic in Sepulchre or somewhere where there's like a scripted character death or something, and that the way Weave of Warped Fates was working was maybe complicating that scripting or something, because I don't know why they would change this otherwise. My personal philosophy is that I don't like trinkets that are good when I die. I want my trinkets to prevent me from dying.
Yes.
So I have never used this trinket. I mean, like the cheat death trinkets and stuff like that, some of them have been cool. They've done some cool designs. They're kind of better for some classes than others. For Warrior, they tend not to be very good because Warrior is very much around damage smoothing. It's about just smoothing that incoming damage curve, being very healable. And then you have a couple big emergency buttons. So stuff like, a cheat death on a trinket is not really what I'm looking for out of those slots. Like, there are a lot of powerful trinket effects.
So
I just want to not die. So
yeah, here's the reason why I think it should be changed the way to the way it is right now, preventing death. When you die, you lose threat. So not dying, better than dying. Dying and using it on use means you lose all of your buffs, all of the hots and everything that are rolling on you. That big heal that was about to land on you just before you died, you lose all of that. And you lose threat on your target, which means you have to res up and taunt and build threat back up, because when you died, it just turned and killed 3 melee before you could actually like pop back up with your on use and do it. I think the other reason is players forget to press buttons. You might be wearing this trinket, forget you're wearing this trinket, and you died and you just never pressed it because you forgot that you had a trinket on that does this. I think this is overall a good change. It just takes that decision out of people's hands.
It's a nice quality of life upgrade on this particular item. I have one of these because I've been raiding Sanctum of Domination since July, but I'm not going to swap it into rotation. I mean, it's good they changed it, but I mean, part of what you're saying is also just sort of the calculus of like good trinket versus bad trinket, right? Like they do cheat death trinkets in various different ways, and when it's something like a built-in onk or whatever, then that's even worse than some other designs of cheat death trinkets. So, it kind of is what it is. I can only imagine that there's some encounter or some scripted event in 9.2 that like this was really interfering with, and that was the big motivator, because otherwise why change it now? It's kind of, it's aging out, right? I doubt this is going to be like a trinket to use for tanks in 9.2 as we get new trinkets and higher item levels on old trinkets from dungeons. And, there's a couple cool trinkets inside of Tazavesh also. So now you have access to those at very high item level. Like I can't imagine this is going to be a desirable item as we move forward, but there was some technical reason to change it.
Yeah. All right. As far as professions go, we have new herbs you can find, the first flower. We have new fish. We have new sort of like leather. We have the protogenic pelts. We have new ore with progenium ore is what the actual thing is. And then we have new cloth with silken protofiber. So if you have a gathering profession, this is big money day. You're going to be spending this week. If you're not doing, earn an anima or whatever it is, you're out herbing and mining constantly, because everyone's going to want to be crafting their new cosmic health potions and their new, sustaining armor polish and all of these other fun little recipes that they've tweaked in there so that, you can actually take advantage of this. And if you want to make a bunch of gold so you can buy up all the cool old mounts like the frogs from BFA, this is a great time to do it. Just get out there and farm as many first flowers and, as much progenium ore and protogenic pelts and whatnot as you can. Throw them up in the auction house at, I'm sure, which will be a ridiculously inflated price from what we'll see farther down the line in a few weeks from now, so that people can actually get those resources. I know I don't have gathering professions anymore on my main, so I'll either have to rely on an alt or a friend, or I'll have to just be buying stuff off the auction house to be able to do things, because there's stuff coming in like the new crafter's marks, which lets you upgrade items, a crafted item, one item that you can unique equipped, to 262 item level. So right off the bat, every single raider / player in the game is going to want to do this. It's a 262 piece of gear. The only slots you're not going to put that in is if you have Mythic Sylvanas loot. That's the only time you're not going to want to, or Mythic Kel'Thuzad loot. not going to want to wear a 262 in that slot necessarily, because you want to put it inside a different slot because you have 259 in that slot already. Or if it's your legendary slot, which you already have something 262 in. So when it comes down to it, like, everyone's going to want one of these, which means everyone's going to want crafting materials for them. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. And if you're someone who's poking around the auction house, I'm sure you'll see a bunch of BOE 262 gear that you can buy off the auction house that people are crafting with these crafting marks. So keep that in mind as well. Yeah, it's going to be a busy week for crafters. I just want to put out there, as far as gathering goes, this is your juicy week. Get out there, get as much of it as you can, sell as much of it as you can if you're not going to use it for yourself. Throw as much as you can inside the guild bank if you're trying to help out your team. If your team provides potions or whatever, it's a big deal to get as much of this crafting stuff as you can, and either benefit from it on a personal level or on a team level. So yeah, it was great.
Yeah, it's a good project to do on, the weird first ramp up week of the patch too. Like, as we've kind of highlighted, a lot of the stuff we're really waiting for doesn't happen this week. So why not go check out Zereth Mortis, get your explore achievement done and gather some stuff. And this is kind of, we've seen this in the last few expansions where the last patch comes in and we have a whole bunch of new crafting mats, new gatherables and stuff. I kind of like that. I kind of like that big reset where it's like, okay, this is the stuff that's important now. That other stuff might still have some usefulness, some utility, but what we really need for the cool new stuff is all here in the new place.
Yeah.
I like that. I like just kind of funneling it down. I think in some ways that sort of mentality and that design philosophy has hurt WoW over the years because, we kind of just move on from really broad sections of content, right? Like stuff just dies after 6 months and is never useful again to the wider player base. But then again, the flip side of that is when it's new, it's really exciting and it's cool. And you just want to hang out there and grab all the stuff and make the new stuff and, maybe make some coin for your trouble and all that stuff. I mean, we saw something similar to the crafter's mark at the beginning of 9.1. You could make something. I forget what level it went up to. I had some blue piece of gear that I crafted for a few weeks there at the beginning because you could, set up the stats on something high item level and slot it in wherever you want to. And that's really cool. So, WoW has always been sort of like the very crafting light MMO. A lot of MMOs really revolve heavily around crafting, and WoW kind of hasn't traditionally. And in this expansion, it's weird because you can pretty easily make some really cool items with the crafter's marks, but then you can only equip one of them. But then being able to learn how to craft a rank 4 legendary base item is a nightmare. So maybe next time out we'll see some kind of balance here. I think it'd be cool if you could make like a bunch of relevant gear for your toon. Like I'm a blacksmith. I'm going to make myself some plate armor and I'm going to wear it around and it's going to feel good to have made it. Making a piece of gear that's relevant for a couple of weeks is better than nothing. And you'll definitely be able to do that.
Yeah. I'm going to save my favorite change for last. So next I'm going to cover the WoW Companion app, which is being updated. Zereth Mortis, basically you're going to get the map added to the WoW Companion app. You're going to have the World Quest side of the Companion app, but you're also getting the Cypher research console is going to be added to the app. So you can actually begin new research and process new research from the app. So be sure that you update your WoW Companion app. If you're someone who's going to be at work and you want to start some new research or check on research or see what quests are up that you're going to be doing, whatever it is, that's all in the app. So that's going to be happening too. As far as Torghast goes, we already mentioned you're getting the extra 3 layers. You're getting the Jailer's Gauntlet. We don't know if that's all coming out tomorrow or whether that's going to be coming out next, like Season 3 start. But if it is, then, you should be checking that out as well. Maybe that's something to do this week. If you haven't, fully unlocked your box of many things, get out there and unlock that box because it's going to make Torghast substantially easier and more fun to do. So be sure you're maxing that thing out. That's certainly really enjoyable. And then, of course, if you're wondering, like, when do I get my second legendary? When does that happen? End of Chapter 7 is when you're going to be able to get the one that you can actually craft on any piece of gear you want. That's rune carving. But the Belt of Unity itself, you're going to get during Mythic Launch Week. So it's a couple weeks into the patch, and you'll be able to start getting your second legendary to start diving into that. So keep that in mind. But actually being able to craft whatever piece you want is going to be a bunch of weeks away when you actually hit Chapter 7. Then you can go, hey, I don't want it on a belt. I want to put this on a ring. because the belt I want is this particular belt from this particular raid or whatever it is. So keep that in mind as well. Okay.
Or even if you want it on a belt, but you want it on a rank 7 belt, right?
Yeah,
Because the one that we get from the quest is not rank 7 equivalent. So keep that in mind too, I guess. I mean, it's not the end of the world. I think a lot of players will probably rightfully be of the opinion that I'm not going to bother using the memory to then make a new Covenant legendary at max item level, because it's just too much work and expense involved for too minor of an upgrade. And I certainly understand that, but I will be doing whatever it is that I need to do in order to max that out, because I don't know. That's just how I tend to do things. It's like I don't want to leave it on the table. That's item level that's sitting there. Item level is good. It's very important. It helps you out a lot, you know.
Yep.
So that is something to keep in mind. Like you're not, if you have the brain disease that I have when it comes to powering up my WoW character, you are not just going to do the quest and take this belt and go, okay, I'm done with that now. Like that's just the beginning of the project.
Yeah. Okay, so everyone knows my favorite changes are quality of life changes to the game. As much as I like new content, new stuff being added, quality of life is key. I'm going to start with the less exciting ones and work towards my favorite changes. Gold, silver, and copper coin icons have been updated. If you notice that there's more contrast to make them really differentiate from the background, someone tweaked all the stuff on those icons. When I was on PTR, it didn't feel like a dramatic, great change. It was just something that was different. So if you notice that, that's a thing. They changed that. The quest log will now display a clock icon next to the quests that have time remaining on the counter. So that means you don't necessarily have to open up your map to see the time remaining on certain quests, where they actually have the countdown. If you're tracking a bunch of world quests you're doing, it'll actually put the icon on the actual tracking area of your quest log, so you can see it there. Mythic Plus rating chat links are now also going to show the player's highest rating from a previous season. So if you're someone who just cranked it out last season in season 2, and now you're going to season 3 and you're trying to join a group, but you haven't run a Plaguefall in season 3 yet, it'll show your previous Plaguefall score so that people are a little bit more confident that you actually know what the dungeon is, even if you haven't run the season. And then arena groups in Group Finder now show their party members' specialization in a mouse over tooltip. That's just helpful for people who are trying to actually figure that out in the Group Finder as to what they want to team up with. Okay. My favorite changes of 9.2 are these two changes. One, click casting is being added to the game. This feature allows you to cast spells simply by clicking on a unit frame. To set up your spell bindings to the key bindings menu, or go to interface options combat. And you can actually go in, turn on click casting, bind your spells the way you want to bind them, so that you can go, hey, you know what? When I right click on a character inside of my raid frames, I want to cast Innervate on that character, or I want to Dispel that character, or I want to cast Rejuve on that character, or I want to cast Holy Light on that character, or I want to Life Grip that character, or I want to whatever it is. You can bind that in there now, so that you don't have to press a key on your keyboard or the side of your mouse or anything like that as far as like number buttons. It doesn't have to be bound that way. You can just bind it to like, this is another great one. When I mouse wheel up, I want to cast Moonfire on that target. Is something that you can also do that way as far as click casting goes. But this gets better. Unit frame mouse over casting is also being added to the game. This allows you to mouse over a unit frame and cast a spell on that character without targeting them. Access to this is under interface options /combat. This is where that Moonfire really comes in handy. You can have mouse up be Moonfire, mouse down be Sunfire, as a druid, and go, I'm going to mouse over this pack of enemies and go mouse up, mouse down, mouse up, mouse down, mouse up, mouse down. And it just dots everything you want it to dot. Super easy to do. You can go, hey, I want to be able to be targeting the tank and always make sure that my heals are casting on the tank, but oops, I want to be able to lay on hands that person who got really low. You can move your mouse cursor over top of the person who got low, press your lay on hands button without clicking on their unit frame and losing your tank target, and it will cast lay on hands on that target that your mouse is hovered over, as opposed to casting it on the tank automatically because you're still targeting the tank. These two features, click casting for binding spells directly to your mouse, so that when you go over top of unit frame and you right click on a target, it does that. Great feature to be added. Unit frame mouse over, even better. Thank you so much. This is like a healer's dream. If you're someone who has not used something like Voodoo, to be able to do healing before, where you're able to, or most over macros or things like that. If you're somebody it's too complicated, you've never played around with it, these two changes build those things right into the game, which means that as a resto druid, you can be mousing over your raid group or your dungeon group and just pressing your rejuve button without having to target any of them. You can just mouse over them and press it, and it will just drop a rejuve into each person who you've moused over. It's super, super nice. It's incredibly helpful. These are great changes to incorporate into the game. These are things that people have been using, those top people who the people who play the game very seriously, for a decade, if not more. They've been using them forever. But they're all complex behind macros and things like that, which you have to actually put effort into researching and figuring out how to use properly and build properly, which it's really a copy and paste at this point, but it's something you had to learn how to do. You had to research how to do. Now it's just in the interface UI. You don't have to have, for me, I run out of macro spots is what I actually do. I just run out of spots to put spells on macros because I have mouse overs and stop castings and all sorts of stuff that's built into that. Now I don't have to, I can delete all those. I can just delete them all. I just have to turn on this one feature with one little tick box. There you go. It's great. Love it. Best change.
Yeah, this is great for accessibility. It just makes the game mechanically easier to play, which is always a good thing. And this is strange to me because on the one hand, it's like, can you believe that it took this long for them to put baseline support for this into the game? But then on the other hand, it's like, wow, I can't believe they put baseline support for this in at all. It's like the kind of thing that I thought would just never happen. I mean, people, like you said, people have been using, click casting and mouse over casting via macros and add-on suites as far back as I can remember. Once people really started to learn how to play World of Warcraft, learn how to get the most out of, the customizable elements of the UI and how to write macros for it. Like, these things were just kind of standard issue for players at a certain level of proficiency, but they are a bit inscrutable. It can be hard to figure out like what is even being talked about. It can be hard to figure out how to set up these macros to work reliably and do what you want them to do intuitively. So yeah, just throwing this in as an interface option in the combat menu, it's great. I love it. It's just, it's so, like, I never thought I'd see the day. It's like one of those things that this is almost more surprising than cross-faction instances. Like, on the list of stuff that you never thought you'd see them do in WoW, like adding like mouse over casting baseline is way up there for me. Like, because that's pretty high level UI customization in my opinion, right? It's something that the average player, if they like buy the game and they sit down and play it and they don't really like hook into a network of other players that are like teaching them things, like, this is never going to come up. You are never going to understand that this is a thing you can do. You're never going to understand how powerful this is or how much easier it makes your life. It might even represent a barrier for you mechanically to play the game that you didn't know you could overcome, So, really, really cool. Really, what a surprise, man. I really didn't expect that they would ever add this into the baseline options. But, even for me, I might have to just play around with this and see if I can come up with, something easy like a
overcharge
macro or something. Yeah.
Intervene? A mouse over intervene? Oh my God. Right? Like,
yeah, intervene is one of the things that I usually macro to my, to my co-tank or if I'm in a dungeon to my melee DPS, right? But that involves, now I have a hotkey for a spell that doesn't work unless I have a focus target. Like, it's just, it's maybe more complicated than it has to be in a world where I could set this up simply without having to write macros or rely on add-ons or anything like that.
Like, for me, the things that stand out are like Blessing of Protection, dropping that on someone inside an emergency situation. Like, there's so many different, like, for me, all of the heals are nice to have on side of mouse over. All the dispels are nice to have on a mouse over. Anything that involves getting to for me, like wild charging is a great thing to have if I want to like shapeshift into cat form and then wild charge to leap at something, or shapeshift into boomkin form and wild charge away from something, or go into neutral form and literally like leap myself to someone, because that's something you can do. All those things are great. And as soon as you start incorporating in hey, I can actually have a mouse over for this, where I just mouse over the person on my screen, physically standing on my screen, the character, not just the frame. I can mouse over the character and press this button, and I leap to that person. That's great. That's super helpful. So the moment you can start just building this in as a, hey, I just click a box and this turns this on, there's going to be players out there who still like their macros and doing the way they need to do. What I love about this is it lets players play around with this and decide if they like it or not by simply clicking a checkbox or binding a key. Like, that's great. It's so easy to do built into the game.
And I wonder if adding this functionality in baseline will open up some doors for other types of, add-ons or other types of like macro logic that people can make even better stuff, like piggybacking off this baseline change into the in-game UI. Like, there's just a lot of possibilities here. It's really cool. I think an underrated part of this patch, because it makes a huge difference if you leverage this stuff.
Yeah, it was funny because there's been several Mythic Raiders I've spoken with about this change, and all of them didn't realize this was happening. It's such a buried lead in the patch notes of what's going on that there's so many players out there who are like, oh, I had no idea that was becoming baseline, that was just coming into the game. Like, I had no idea. And you're like, yeah, it's here. It's something you're gonna be able to do. And it's great that they're doing it, because I feel like for the generation of new players coming into the game, for the generation of players who've been struggling to sort of mechanically figure out the game, just being able to turn this on and play around with it is great. Because previously it was make a macro for each and every spell that you want to be able to mouse overcast. Make a macro for each and every spell that you want to be able to do this with. And that's a work to begin with, but also kind of a pain, because you have to not only find the macro for it, for the baseline sort of mouse overcast, but then you have to replace every single button on your bar with a macro to be able to make that work for the spells that you want to replace it with. Whereas this is, you turn this feature on and you just have it on, and then you go, okay, you know what? First time trying this out, let's just stand inside my Covenant Hall or go and queue into an LFR or whatever it is and go, man, this is actually pretty cool. I can just get rejuves out twice as fast because I'm no longer clicking on a target, clicking another button. Now it's just mouse over click, mouse over click, mouse over click, and you're just casting all these spells. It's great. It feels really good. And for me, dotting was the biggest thing. When I did the changing Moonfire, Sunfire to mouse overs, oh my goodness, did it ever improve my quality of life. Like, in a huge way, because when you're fighting a pack of mobs inside of Mythic Plus, and that pack is moving around and shifting, and you're trying to target the one you haven't cast a Moonfire on yet, so that you can cast a Moonfire on it, you're often clicking multiple times trying to find it. Whereas in this case, you just literally put your mouse icon over it and press the button, and then put your mouse over another one and press the button is so much nicer than trying to like target them, and you're clicking on the tank, and you're clicking on the wrong mob, and you're clicking, it's just like, ugh. So the mouse over to me was huge. So yeah, definitely explore it. Just play around with it. If you don't like it, turn it off. But it's great that it's this accessible. You just go into your combat options and toggle this on as an option. It's super cool. All right, with that, let's play a quick sounder for our patrons, and we'll be right back. Hi everyone, I'd like to take a moment to thank our patrons. They contribute a ton to our show and help us to improve on the content we create. Today I'm giving a special shout out to Arajian, Celian, Greg, Kapawi, Nibble the Mighty, and Shorel. Thank you. This sounder is for you. We have a Patreon over at patreon.com/thestartingzone. We have no new patrons this week, but our monthly patron episode is going to be on Friday, the 25th of February. So if you're someone who wants to pop in on that, feel free to share your initial 9.2 impressions or wherever else it is you want to do. You can do that on that episode. If you're a patron, you just need to go onto Patreon and make sure you're a patron. You can submit those questions ahead of time if you want, if you're not able to participate in the actual episode live, by just going into Discord and submitting them either in the patron exclusive channel or just sharing them inside the normal chat, as long as you tag Jason and I so that we can actually find it and save it so that we have it. That's great. Or you can actually do it through Patreon. You can actually send us a message through Patreon with your question and get it there. Or like I said, you can show up live on the night and we'll bring you in and you can join the show and ask your question live on the show or share your impressions, whatever it is you want to do. So big shout out and thank you to all our patrons. We really appreciate it, especially as we come into the new cycle of new content that we have so many people supporting us. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you, and we look forward to chatting with you later this month.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, we're only a couple days away here. The timing just worked out perfectly. We were hoping for the 22nd for patch release so that we could do our February episode and have, actually be able to talk about playing 9.2, what people are doing, what they think about it, instead of having because we want to do a February episode, right? We didn't want to hold it back. And then it's like, well, okay, we have the episode and the patch is still a week or two away. And so how's everybody feeling about the patch that's almost out, right? Like we don't have to do that dance this month. So that's great. So yeah, looking forward to talking to everybody this week. And yeah, if you have any topics or anything you want to hit in advance, yeah, go ahead and submit them. And thanks, of course, for your support over all the years and into the future. And yeah, I think it's exciting. Like Shadowlands has been a real roller coaster, and obviously a lot of people have become disillusioned with the game for one reason or another over the last year or so. But I do think there's cause for optimism. I think 9.2 is going to be a good patch, and I think it's going to get us sort of, set up for success with the next expansion. I think the devs are clearly saying and doing and thinking about things that are important to players, and it's showing up in the game. 9.15 was a really nice step in the right direction. I think 9.2 is going to be even more so, and obviously 9.25 is adding at least. What we know about the one thing 9.25 is doing is something people have been asking for a long time. So I'm optimistic about the future of the game, and I hope that you all are feeling the same way, and definitely looking forward to hearing from our patrons this week.
Yeah. Okay, if you folks have enjoyed this episode of The Starting Zone, consider heading over to your iTunes, your Apple Podcasts, leave us a 5-star review. They really help out our show. We love reading them here live from our listeners, and they really do boost us up those charts, so we appreciate them. This one comes in from Polium5634, entitled Celebration of WoW. It says, "Hey guys, I think this might be my first ever review/rating of a podcast. Well, thank you for choosing us. We appreciate it. I've been playing WoW since vanilla. I've developed a routine of subbing and taking breaks regularly as the content tends to ebb and flow, and since early to mid BFA, this podcast has become part of that routine." Well, thank you so much for including us in your routine. It's pretty great to share that with you. Early in an expansion/patch, or upon returning to the game after a break, your podcast has been an invaluable tool of information to help me very quickly and conveniently get everything sorted out and back on my feet. But as I get back into the daily grind, I continue to look forward to the show every week because it almost always feels like a celebration of this thing that we all loved to share with each other over for going on 2 decades now. Yeah, it's true. It's kind of a little bit scary that we're just a year and a bit away from the 2-decade mark. We're not even a year and a bit away. We're like 10 months or something away. That's crazy. Even in the game's low points, you'll offer criticism, but you're almost never downright negative or mean-spirited. Spencer specifically is always so positive. Listening to him usually gets me hyped to log in after work. I love that guy. Well, thank you. I appreciate you listening. Thanks to both of you for continuing to deliver such a quality podcast regardless of the state of the game or real world circumstances surrounding the game. Well, I very much appreciate your review, Polium5634. It is great to have you write in. I'm glad you noticed the positivity. We really do try and keep things as positive as possible. We do criticize. We do feel like there's ways they can improve the game. We're not afraid to share those thoughts and feelings, but it doesn't get me down on it, right? Like I still want everyone to get hyped. The goal of this show is to make you excited to log in, get you excited to play the game and enjoy your time that you're committing to it. So yeah, I think that's a goal that I strive every week to achieve on this show.
Yeah. Also, I think having a bit of distance from the game when necessary helps maintain that, right? Like if your entire state of being hinges on, the public opinion of the relative quality of WoW at any given moment in time, you're probably not really enjoying, all that life has to offer very much. So if you dig it, you should play it and do the thing. And if you're not, you should probably just, take a bit of a step back if you need to. I mean, Polium here kind of mentions that, right? Like sort of sort of riding the ebb and flow, like playing at the higher tides. And I mean, that's valid. I think, that's a way that a lot of people want to play WoW for many years now. And I think that development of the game certainly supports that as well, right? Like they know that people want to do that. So they take that into account with the publishing schedule and sort of the way the game works. So absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I mean, at the end of the day, it is just a game, but the cool thing about the game is the way you can connect with people through it, and I think that stuff is always important, regardless of what you think about any particular, patch or change to the game.
Yeah. Now, Jason, I don't want to drag this episode out to being 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 22 seconds, just because as much as I think that would be funny.
Oh, that would be great. I
think it's time we wrap up episode 505 of The Starting Zone. If you want to check out show notes for this episode or leave a comment on the show, you can head on over to thestartingzone.com, the official website for the Starting Zone podcast. If you want to contact the show or leave us your feedback or ask a question, you can email us at thestartingzone@gmail.com. And I'd emphasize that. If you're someone who wants to leave feedback on the show, do it at thestartingzone.com. The reviews are great for boosting the show and letting us know what you think about the show. But if you're like, hey, I listened to the show, you guys always talk about how the single limb thing inside of PvP is not cool. I think it is cool, and I disagree. Write us an email and talk to us about it. We answer all of at least read all of our emails. We answer all of them either on the show when we eventually have the time to actually read them on the show, or we reply to them directly. So we definitely get all of your email and your feedback. So we appreciate that feedback.
I do want to say, we get a lot of really good emails lately, really good ones, yes. And a lot more than we usually get.
Yeah.
We haven't had time the last couple of weeks to squeeze them in, but we got a couple in the notes in the chamber ready to go when we have time, and we got a couple more that aren't even in the notes yet. I mean, keep them coming. I think people have brought up a lot of really cool topics and cool perspectives, and we're going to feature them on the show when we can. Obviously tonight it's not going to happen, but we got some great ones. And I feel like there's just a lot of conversation happening around the game lately in a way that is uncommon, right? Like there's a lot of stuff to talk about. People are thinking about a lot of different changes that are coming in and kind of looking ahead. And that's awesome. I think people are kind of energized and optimistic for WoW, even though it hasn't been in a great state. So, I love to hear from people who play the game the way we do or don't or whatever. Like it's all interesting stuff to talk about because the game is so broad.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you on that. I will also say that if you want to reach out to us, you can also do that on Twitter or join our Discord, thestartingzone.com/Discord. And our little gear shop is tpublic.com/stores/thestartingzone. Where we have shirts and mugs and stickers, and often stuff is 30% off, so be sure you check that out. And that reminded me, I also want to mention, Fanatics is gone for the Blizzard gear store. There is now a proper Blizzard-owned Blizzard store. If you want to just type in Blizzard gear store on Google, you'll find all the new stuff they threw up on there, including there's a escape room game that's on there for World of Warcraft. If you want to sit down with some buddies and play an escape room in card format, like a Dungeons and Dragons card format, you can do that. It exists, which I think is kind of cool. I didn't know that existed, but that's on the new gear store. So if that's something you want to check out, feel free to do so. Jason, where can folks find you on the internet?
You can find me mourning the loss of Fanatics as Blizzard's gear store retail partner. No. I will not be doing
Celebrating.
that. You can, it's that thing of Fanatics is gone and that's good, but I don't know if I want to buy Blizzard gear right now. That's a bit of a dilemma, but that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
You can find me on Twitter over at Shieldwald, always talking WoW stuff or other games I'm getting into or whatever else I'm doing. So come say hi over there.
Yeah. Trying to find me, you can find me on Twitter at Spencer_Downey or over on Twitch at twitch.tv/SpencerHD. And with that, for Jason and myself, we want to say thanks for listening and jobs done.